Autumn arrived on Maple Street without asking for attention. The kind of arrival you only noticed once it was already there. In the cooler air, the slower mornings, the way the light lingered just a little differently on familiar things. Some seasons announced themselves. This one simply settled in. Lights on Maple Street, Chapter 6. Morning came to Maple Street differently now. Not loud, not bright. Autumn had changed the way the day arrived, sharpening it just enough to be noticed. The air held a faint chill even indoors, the kind that lingered near windows and doorframes, reminding you the night had been colder than the one before. Outside, the sky carried a pale, rinsed quality, light thin and deliberate rather than generous. Jack felt it before he even reached the door. The apartment above the diner still held warmth from the night, the quiet heat of lamps and bodies in sleep. But the cold pressed against the windows, patient and persistent. When he stepped into the narrow stairwell, the air shifted immediately cooler, clearer. It smelled faintly of old wood and clean dust. He paused halfway down, one hand resting on the rail, and looked out through the small window that faced the side yard. Leaves had begun to gather along Maple Street. Not piles yet, just small, careless drifts along the curb, copper and gold pressed flat by passing tires. A few still clung to the trees, trembling slightly when the breeze moved through, unsure if this was the moment to let go. Somewhere down the street, something scraped softly, leaf against pavement, or branch against fence. Jack pulled his jacket on before stepping outside. The fabric was cool from the hook, stiff at first before warming to him. He zipped it all the way up, crossed the few quiet steps to the diner door, and turned the key. The lock gave with familiar resistance. Inside, the lights came on one by one. The soft yellow glow spread slowly across the floor, warming the room as if the diner recognized him. Shadows shifted gently as each fixture came alive. The bell over the door chimed when he stepped inside. Warmth met him immediately, coffee from the pot he'd set up the night before, clean soap. The faint sweetness that lived in the air, no matter how thoroughly the counters were wiped. The diner held heat the way it held memory, slowly and without fuss. Even the silence felt familiar, broken only by the low hum of refrigeration and the quiet tick of the clock above the pass-through. Oscar was already there. He stood at the counter with both hands wrapped around a mug, steam rising in slow curls toward his face. He wore his heavier sweater now, the green one with cuffs, folded back so many times they stayed that way. His cheeks were pink from the cold, his hair still slightly damp, combed with care. The mug warmed his palms steadily, grounding him. Jack paused just long enough to take that in. "Mornin'," he said. Oscar looked up and smiled, easy and unguarded. Jack poured himself coffee and leaned back against the counter for a moment, listening. The low hum of the refrigerator, the soft ticking of the clock above the pass-through. Outside, A car went by, its tires whispering over the pavement, sound flattened by distance and cold air. The morning routine settled around them. Jack checked the register. Oscar straightened a stack of napkins without being asked, aligning the edges carefully. The coffee pot was refilled before it reached empty. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was skipped. Movements overlapped smoothly, practiced without ever feeling mechanical. Outside, the light climbed slowly. When Sarah came in with Jenny, the door opened just long enough to let a breath of cool air follow them inside. Crisp and fleeting before the warmth swallowed it again. Jenny was bundled tight in her coat, zipped to her chin, hands hidden up inside her sleeves. She stopped just inside the door, eyes on the floor. A leaf had followed them in, bright orange, curled at the edges, sitting right there on the linoleum like it had every right to be. Jenny crouched without a word, picked it up carefully, and carried it to the trash can. She dropped it in and closed the lid with a soft click, as if the leaf deserved that much respect. Sarah watched her, saying nothing. She rubbed her hands together once, then again, the faint rasp of fabric against fabric, barely audible. "Cold this morning," she said. Jack nodded. "Yeah. It finally feels like fall," Sarah added. Jack glanced out the window at the trees lining the street, their edges beginning to turn. And then back at Jenny's sleeves pulled down over her hands. He poured Sarah a cup of coffee and set it on the counter where she usually stood. Sarah looked at it, then at him, and gave a small nod. Thanks, without making it a thing. Oscar blew on his coffee the same way Sarah did, matching her without realizing it. Jenny noticed and smiled. The morning moved forward. A few regulars drifted in, coats smelling like outside, cold air, wool, a trace of leaves. Boots tracked in bits of grit and leaf that Jack swept up without comment. There was talk about the weather, about how the nights were dropping lower now, about how someone's heater had kicked on for the first time and sounded wrong. Jack listened more than he spoke, but he was everywhere at once, refilling mugs, wiping the counter, nudging chairs back into place. Oscar worked steadily, too. He wiped down booths with careful attention, folded napkins until the edges lined up just right, stacked clean plates where they belonged. He moved with the quiet pride of someone who knew his work mattered. Sarah took her place where she was needed and stayed there, competent and calm. Jenny drifted between allowed places, near Oscar, near the back counter, near the window where she could watch leaves detach themselves from branches and spin down like they were thinking about it. By late morning, the light changed. It slid in at an angle that softened everything it touched. The chrome lost its sharpness. The red vinyl booths warmed, their color deepening. Outside, a breeze moved through the trees, and a handful of leaves broke free all at once, pattering down to the sidewalk in dry, irregular rhythms. Jack noticed the shift without stopping what he was doing. When the rush eased, the diner slipped into a gentle lull, the kind that didn't feel empty, just open. Sound thinned. Movements slowed. Jack wiped the counter slowly, then folded the towel and set it aside. "We could head out to Miller's Orchard stand," he said, not looking at anyone in particular. "If you want." Sarah looked up from where she was rinsing a cup. "For what?" "Cider, probably in by now." "Pumpkins too, Mums." Jenny's head lifted immediately. Oscar leaned forward, just a little, interested. Sarah glanced toward the window, toward the day that was already moving on without asking permission. "Before supper?" she asked. "Yeah," Jack said, "while there's still light." Sarah considered the counter, the dishes, the things that always needed doing. Then she nodded once. Okay. That was all it took. They closed a little earlier than usual. Not with ceremony, just intention. Outside, the air had warmed enough to be comfortable, though the chill still lived underneath it, pressing lightly against skin. Jack's truck waited behind the diner, old green paint, dulled by time. The beds scattered with the things that always seemed to live there. Leaves crunched faintly underfoot. Jack opened the passenger door for Sarah. She paused there, one hand on the edge of the door, looking back toward the truck bed. Jenny climbed up first, careful with her hands. Oscar followed, settling near the cab with easy confidence. Sarah watched them for a moment. The hesitation crossed her face, not fear, just instinct. She looked at Jack. Jack met her eyes and gave a small, steady nod. Sarah exhaled, then climbed into the passenger seat and pulled the door shut. Jack started the engine. The truck answered with a low, familiar rumble that traveled up through the floorboards and into the seat. Inside the cab, the heater clicked on, warm air creeping out around their ankles, smelling faintly of dust and oil and years of use. Sarah rested her hands in her lap, the vinyl cool beneath her legs, the seatbelt stiff across her shoulder. She glanced at the dashboard, then at Jack's hands on the wheel. They were steady, always steady. Jack adjusted the mirror until it caught the truck bed just right. Behind them, the wind reached Jenny and Oscar immediately. It rushed up over the tailgate, tugging at Jenny's hair and pressing Oscar's sweater flat against his chest. The metal ridges beneath them were cold through their jeans, sharp enough to make Jenny laugh and tuck her legs up closer. Leaves skittered and spun around their ankles, lifting briefly before slapping back down with dry, papery sounds. Jack drove slowly. No sudden turns, no quick stops. The town loosened around them as fields opened up, the air changing with it earth, apples, hay. The orchard stand came into view like it always had. Wood, crates, and color gathered at the edge of the road. Mums lined the front in thick, heavy domes of gold and rust and cream. Pumpkins sat everywhere stacked, scattered, resting in straw. Jack parked and cut the engine. Sarah stepped out and stood still for a moment, taking it in. "Pick what you like," Jack said, nodding toward the mums. For the property. Sarah turned to look at him, surprised. Then she looked back at the rows of color. All right, she said softly, and stepped closer. Jenny and Oscar were already at the pumpkins. They moved among them with careful purpose, touching, lifting, testing. Pumpkins were cool on the bottom, warmer on top where the sun had rested. Straw clung to their sleeves. A fly buzzed lazily near a crate of apples. The stand smelled warm and sweet apples, cinnamon, something frying nearby. Sarah chose one mum for each porch along the row, deep gold and darker rust, balanced without counting. Jack loaded them carefully into the truck bed. They bought pumpkin donuts and hot cider. Steam lifted from the cups. Sugar dusted fingers. Jenny took a bite and went still, eyes wide. Oscar ate slowly, savoring. Mom used to make donuts, Oscar said quietly. Jack nodded. Yeah, burned the first batch every time. Oscar smiled. They drove back with the sun lower now, shadows longer. Inside the cab, the heater hummed. In the bed, pumpkins thumped softly. Leaves chased the tires. Laughter was swallowed by the wind. Back at the diner, they unloaded slowly. Sarah placed one mum on each porch. Jenny and Oscar scattered pumpkins with care. Behind the diner, Jack uncovered the bicycle. Paint chipped, chain loose, willing. Oscar fetched the toolbox without being asked. They worked together, metal warm, oil sharp in the air. A bolt resisted, then gave. As Jack wiped his hands, the bicycle caught the last of the light. Just for a moment. Not bright, not sharp. A warmth rested along the frame. Oscar saw it. Jack didn't. They rolled the bicycle to the street. Jenny walked beside it, fingers brushing the handlebar, surprised. You fixed it, she asked. Jack nodded. For you. She swallowed. Sarah watched from the porch, noticing the care in the details. The time, the restraint. Oscar watched everything